The silence in the command center was thick with worry. High Commander Veltar stood before the main display screen, his forearms hanging at his sides. The screen showed nothing but empty space where Scout Fleet Zephyr 7 should have been sending. Signals, 6 months. 6 long months without a single word from the 12 ships he had sent to that small blue planet in the Sol system. The humans called it Earth, according to their intercepted radio signals. It was supposed to be a simple mission. Go look, report back. Nothing more. Still nothing, sir, came the voice of Communications Officer Helkin from his station. The voice was quiet, almost afraid to speak the words out loud. Veltar's yellow eyes narrowed as he stared at the display. In over 200 years of service to the Cathari Empire, he had never lost a scout fleet. Not one ship. Not even a single probe. The Empire's expansion across the galaxy had been smooth and efficient. They would find a new world, send scouts, to study it, then follow up with the main fleet to claim it. Simple, clean, effective. 17 star systems had fallen this way. 17 worlds now flew the banner of the Cathari Empire. Some had fought back, but their resistance never lasted long. Most had surrendered once they saw the size of the Imperial fleet. A few had tried to hide, but Cathari sensors found them anyway. Earth was different. Earth was a mystery. Bring up the initial survey data, Veltar ordered, his voice carrying the weight of his growing concern. The screen changed to show the information they had gathered. It's about Earth from long range. Sensors. It was a typical Class M world, with vast oceans and large land masses. The atmosphere was rich in oxygen and nitrogen. It's perfect for most known species. The planet showed clear signs of intelligent life, but the technology readings were primitive. Basic. Chemical rockets, Red Science Officer Kilmer from his station. Simple radio communications. Nuclear weapons, but only fission-based. No fusion reactors detected, no energy shields, no faster-than-light travel. Veltar nodded slowly. It was exactly what they had expected. A young species, probably a few. 100 years away from true spaceflight, the kind of civilization that would surrender quickly once they saw what they were facing. Population? He asked. Approximately 8 billion individuals, Kilmer replied. Spread across all the major continents. They seemed to be divided into separate nations, often in conflict with each other. Perfect, Veltar had thought 6 months ago. A divided species was easier to control than a united one. They would approach the strongest nations first, demonstrate their superior technology, and watch as the governments fell in line. It had worked on 16 other worlds. But now, 6 months later, there was only silence. Show me the fleet composition. Again, Veltar commanded. The display shifted to show the 12 ships of Scout Fleet Zephyr 7, 8 light cruisers, each capable of destroying a small city with a single shot. 3 heavy reconnaissance ships, equipped with the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. And 1 command vessel, the Dark Star, with enough firepower to level a planet's entire military infrastructure. Fleet leader Zarkith had been in command of the mission. He was one of the Empire's best scouts, with over 50 successful missions under his belt. His crew was experienced, his ships were in perfect condition, and his orders were clear, observed the humans. Catalog their capabilities and report back. Within 1 standard cycle, that was 6 months ago, sir. Communications Officer Helkin spoke up again, his voice uncertain. What if they single quotes read? Gone. Hung in the air like a poison cloud, gone. 12 ships, 2,000 crew members. Simply gone. But how? The humans had no space navy. Their most advanced weapons were crude missiles that could barely reach their own moon. Their largest ships were floating chunks of metal that moved through water, not space. Impossible, Veltar said. But his voice lacked conviction. Show me the last transmission from the fleet. The screen changed again, this time showing the final message they had received from Fleet Leader Zarkith. It was brief, just a few seconds long. The image showed Zarkith on the bridge of his command ship, his compound eyes reflecting the glow of the control panels around him. Approaching the target system, Zarkith's voice came through the speakers. All ships reporting ready. beginning final approach to the third planet. Cloaking fields active. The humans show no signs of detecting our presence. We'll report again once we've established observation positions. That was it. The last words from Scout Fleet Zephyr 7. Veltar had watched this transmission dozens of times, looking for any clue about what might have happened next. But there was nothing. No sign of trouble, no indication that anything was wrong. Could they have suffered a technical failure? Asked Navigation Officer Peakdahl from his station. All 12 ships at once? It's impossible. Science Officer Kilmer replied immediately. The Dark Star alone has 17 backup systems. The chance of total fleet failure is less than 1 in 10 million. Then what happened to them? Peakdahl asked. Nobody had an answer. Veltar turned away from the display and began pacing the command center. His claws clicked against the metal floor with each step. The other officers watched him nervously. They had all heard the stories about what happened to commanders who lost entire fleets. The Empire did not tolerate failure. Could the humans have captured them? Asked Communications Officer Helkin, his voice barely above a whisper. The question was so absurd that several officers actually laughed. Capture a Cathari scout fleet? With what? Humans had no space navy, no energy weapons, no advanced technology of any kind. They were barely more advanced than the primitive species on Kelter Prime, and that world had fallen in less than a day. But the laughter died quickly. Because if the humans hadn't captured the fleet, then where was it? Perhaps they found something. Unexpected Science Officer Kilmer suggested. A hidden military installation. A secret weapon program. Something our long-range sensors missed. Veltar stopped pacing and turned to face his science officer. What kind of secret weapon could destroy 12 ships without sending a single distress signal? Kilmer's mandibles clicked nervously. I don't know, sir. The truth was none of them knew. And that was what made the situation so terrifying. The Cathari Empire had built its success on superior technology and careful planning. Studied their enemies, learned their weaknesses, and struck with overwhelming force. But how could they plan for an enemy they didn't understand? Sir Navigation Officer Peakdahl spoke up suddenly. What if we're looking at this wrong? What if the humans aren't as primitive as we thought? The suggestion was met with silence. It was a dangerous thought, one that challenged everything they believed about the species they were preparing to conquer. Explain, Veltar said finally. Peakdahl's voice was uncertain as he continued. What if the humans had been hiding their true capabilities? What if they wanted us to think they were primitive? Would they do that? Asked Communications Officer Helkin. To lure us into a trap, Peakdahl replied. Send a small fleet that they could handle. Learn about our technology. Then, ... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone in the command center understood the implication. Veltar felt a chill run down his spine. In 200 years of service, he had never considered the possibility that a primitive species might be intelligent enough to set a trap for the Empire. But if Peakdahl was right, if the humans had somehow managed to capture or destroy Scout Fleet Zephyr 7, then everything the Empire thought it knew about Earth was wrong. And if they were wrong about Earth, then the main fleet might be flying into a trap of their own. Open a channel to Imperial Command, Veltar ordered, his voice grim. We need to report this situation immediately. But even as he gave the order, he wondered if it was already too late. Somewhere in the darkness of space, 12 ships and 2,000 crew members had vanished without a trace. And now, for the first time in his long career, High Commander Veltar was afraid. Dr. Linda Hayes stood in the underground command center watching the holographic display with tired eyes. She had been working 18-hour days for the past 3 weeks. Ever since the alien ships had first appeared on their sensors, the coffee in her hand had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. They're still out there, she said to General Robert Kane, who stood beside her, studying the same display.
Yes.
12 ships, holding position just beyond Mars' orbit. They think we can't see them. General Kane nodded grimly. His gray hair was perfectly neat despite the early morning hour, and his uniform was crisp as always. How long have we been tracking them? Since the moment they entered our solar system, Linda replied. The quantum radar array picked them up 3 days before they thought they arrived. Their cloaking technology is good, but not good enough. The holographic display showed the entire solar system with small red dots marking the positions of the alien vessels. They were arranged in a classic reconnaissance formation, spread out to maximize sensor coverage while maintaining communication links. It was exactly the kind of setup that Earth's military strategists had been expecting. Colonel Jack Morrison approached with a tablet in his hands. His face was serious, but there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. "Dr. Hayes, we've made a breakthrough with their communication signals. Dr. Amy, Foster's team has been working around the clock to decode their transmissions." Linda turned away from the display to face the colonel. "What have you learned?" "They're definitely scouts," Morrison said, reading from the tablet. "Their mission orders are clear: observe, catalog, and report back to something they call the main fleet. They're not here to attack, at least not yet. They're gathering intelligence for an invasion." General Kane crossed his arms. "How much time do we have?" "Based on their transmission patterns, they expect to complete their mission within the next 2 weeks," Morrison replied. "After that, they'll return to their empire with a full report on our capabilities." Linda felt a chill run down her spine. She had been Earth's leading expert on extraterrestrial life for 15 years, but she had always hoped that first contact would be peaceful. These aliens were clearly not interested in friendship. "What do we know about their technology?" asked Morrison, flipped to another page on his tablet. "Our ships are advanced, but not impossibly so. Energy shields, faster than light travel, directed energy weapons. The kind of technology our scientists predicted we'd develop in another century or two. But we're not defenseless," General Kane added. "Show her the Carson Protocol files." Morrison nodded and activated a new display. The hologram changed to show a series of documents marked with the highest security classifications. "Dr. Peter Carson developed these protocols 30 years ago, after we first detected signs of alien activity in nearby star systems. The basic principle is simple: make them think we're primitive while we prepare for the worst." Linda had heard whispers about the Carson Protocol, but she had never seen the actual documents. As she read through them, her eyes widened with surprise. The scope of the deception was incredible. "We've been hiding our true capabilities for 3 decades, she asked. "Longer than that," General Kane replied. "The public thinks our space program is limited to a few research stations and the occasional Mars mission. They don't know about the military installations on the far side of the moon, or the defense platforms at the Lagrange points, or the sensor networks that monitor everything within 50 astronomical units of Earth." The display changed again, showing the true extent of human space infrastructure. Linda stared in amazement at the network of hidden bases, weapon platforms, and observation posts that surrounded Earth like a protective shell. "How is this possible?" she asked. "The funding alone would be ... black budget projects," Morrison explained. "Funded through classified military programs that don't appear on any public records. Every major government on Earth has been contributing resources for decades." Linda shook her head in disbelief. "But why? How did we know this day would come?" General Kane walked over to another display and activated it with a touch. "Because these aren't the first aliens we've encountered. Show her the Proxima files." The new display showed a series of photographs and sensor readings from deep space. Linda recognized some of the images from classified reports she had seen years ago, but others were completely new to her. "In 1987, we detected the first signs of alien activity in the Proxima Centauri system," General Kane explained. "A massive construction project that appeared to be building some kind of space station. We've been watching them ever since. They're called the Cathari Empire," Morrison added. "Over the past 40 years, we've observed them conquering 17 different star systems. Our method is always the same: send scouts to study the target, then follow up with a massive invasion fleet." Linda felt sick to her stomach. 17 star systems?
How many people?
"Billions," General Kane said quietly. "Sometimes the conquered species survive as slaves. Sometimes they don't. But the Cathari Empire keeps expanding, and we've been watching them get closer to Earth with each new conquest." The display changed to show a map of the local region of the galaxy. Red areas marked the systems under Ketheri control, while blue dots showed the locations of other civilizations. Linda could see the pattern clearly. The Empire was expanding in a rough sphere, with Earth directly in their path. So when their scout fleet arrived, we were ready, Morrison said. We've been tracking their movements since they entered our solar system. We know their ship configurations, their communication frequencies, and their mission parameters. Linda walked closer to the display, studying the positions of the alien ships. What's our response going to be? We follow the Carson Protocol, General Kane replied. We let them think they're observing a primitive civilization while we gather intelligence on their technology. But we're also preparing for the next phase, which is capture, Morrison said simply. We're going to take one of their ships intact, along with its crew. We need to learn everything we can about their technology, their military capabilities, and their plans for Earth. Linda stared at him in shock. Capture an alien spacecraft? How is that even possible? Because they think we're primitive, General. Kane explained, not expecting resistance from a species that still uses chemical rockets. They're certainly not expecting an attack. The display changed once more, showing a detailed tactical plan. Linda could see the positions of hidden human assets throughout the solar system, all focused on the alien fleet, ships that had been disguised as asteroids, weapon platforms that appeared to be communication satellites, and strike teams positioned on various space stations and lunar bases. This is Project Nightfall, Morrison said. We're going to hit them fast and hard before they have a chance to send a warning back to their empire. With any luck, we'll have prisoners to interrogate and technology to study. Linda felt overwhelmed by the scope of the operation. And if something goes wrong, then we fight, General Kane said grimly. Because if we let them return to their empire with intelligence about Earth, the invasion fleet will be here within a year. And based on what we've seen of their previous conquests, humanity won't survive. The three of them stood in silence for a moment, contemplating the weight of what they were planning. Linda had spent her entire career studying the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but she had never imagined it would come to this. When does the operation begin? She asked finally. 72 hours, Morrison replied. Captain Alex Turner is leading the assault team. They'll approach the alien command ship using modified atmospheric entry vehicles, staying in the sensor shadow of the sun to avoid detection. And after we capture the ship, then we learn everything we can about our enemies, General Kane said. Because this is just the beginning. The Ketheri Empire has been expanding for centuries, conquering every species they encounter. But they've never faced humans before. Linda looked back at the display, watching the red dots that represented the alien fleet. They were so confident, so sure of their superiority. They had no idea that they were being watched by a species that had been preparing for this moment for decades. They think we're just another primitive world, she said quietly. Let them think that, General Kane replied. It's the last mistake they'll ever make. The command center fell silent except for the quiet hum of computers and the distant sound of ventilation systems. Outside, the world continued as normal, unaware that 12 alien ships were studying them from the darkness of space. But here, in the depths of the Earth, humanity was preparing to show the galaxy what it meant to underestimate. The human species, the countdown to Project Nightfall had begun. Captain Alex Turner checked his equipment one final time as the countdown reached its last minutes. The modified atmospheric entry vehicle was cramped, barely large enough for him and his 3 team members. But it was designed to be invisible. 2 alien sensors, and that was all that mattered. Radio check, he said quietly into his helmet microphone. Dr. Kevin Brooks, ready, came the first response. The physicist was nervous, but his voice was steady. He had spent months preparing for this mission, studying every piece of alien technology they had managed to scan. Maria Santos, ready, came the second voice. The combat engineer sounded completely calm, as if boarding an alien spacecraft was just another day at the office. She had volunteered for the mission the moment she heard about it. Lieutenant Danny Cooper, ready, came. The third response. The pilot was young, but he had more experience with experimental aircraft than anyone else in the Space Force. If things went wrong, it would be their ticket home. Alex looked out the small window at the alien command ship in the distance. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of any human spacecraft. Its hull was dark and smooth, with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as he watched. The ship's energy shields created a faint shimmer around it, like heat, waves rising from hot pavement. "Remember the mission parameters?" Alex said to his team. "We go in quiet, we take control of the ship, and we capture the crew alive. Intelligence needs prisoners to interrogate. No unnecessary violence." "What if they fight back?" Maria asked. "Then we do what we have to do," Alex replied. "But these aliens have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of." The countdown reached 0, and their vehicle detached from the hidden launch platform. Alex felt his stomach drop as they began their approach to the alien ship. The entry vehicle was designed to look like space debris, just another piece of junk floating through the solar system. The aliens had been in position for weeks, and their sensors had probably cataloged thousands of similar objects. Approaching the target, Lieutenant Cooper reported, "No sign that they've detected us." Alex watched the alien ship grow larger through the window. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was covered with sensor arrays, weapon ports, and communication dishes. This was clearly a military vessel, built for reconnaissance and combat. "There," Dr. Brooks pointed to a section of the hull. "That's their main airlock. The energy readings suggest it's designed for standard atmospheric pressure." Alex nodded. The plan was simple in theory. They would attach to the alien ship's hull, cut through the airlock, and flood the interior with a gas that would knock out the crew without killing them. Maria had spent weeks developing the formula, using data from previous encounters with alien biology. "Beginning final approach," Cooper said. 30 seconds to contact. Alex felt his heart racing. He had led dozens of missions during his time as a Navy SEAL, but nothing had prepared him for this. They were about to board a spacecraft from another world, operated by beings they had never directly encountered. The entry vehicle made contact with the alien hull with a soft thump. Immediately, magnetic clamps engaged, holding them in place. Alex could feel the vibration of the alien ship's engines through the hull. "We're attached," Cooper reported. "All systems green." Alex unbuckled his harness and moved to the airlock. "Kevin, start scanning their hull. I want to know what we're dealing with. Maria, prepare the cutting tools." Dr. Brooks activated his portable scanner, studying the alien metal. "It's some kind of composite material," he said. "Steel, but not impossible to cut through. The airlock mechanism is mechanical, not electronic. That's good news for us." Maria moved to the cutting position with her plasma torch. "Ready when you are, Captain." Alex took a deep breath. Once they cut through the hull, there would be no going back. The aliens would know they were being boarded, and the element of surprise would be lost. "Do it," he ordered. The plasma torch came to life with a brilliant blue flame. Maria worked quickly and efficiently, cutting through the alien airlock in a perfect circle. The metal glowed white-hot as it melted, and Alex could smell the sharp, an odor of vaporized metal through his helmet filters. "Almost through," Maria reported. 10 more seconds. Alex prepared the gas canisters that would flood the alien ship. The formula was designed to work on most known forms of alien biology, causing unconsciousness within seconds. At least that was the theory. It never actually tested it on living aliens. "Breakthrough," Maria announced. The circular section of hull fell away, revealing the interior of the alien ship. Alex was the first through the opening, his weapon ready. The interior was dimly lit, with walls covered in strange symbols and displays. The air was thick and humid, with a metallic smell that made his nose wrinkle. "Atmosphere is breathable," Dr. Brooks reported, checking his scanner. "High oxygen. Content, trace amounts of unknown compounds. We can remove our helmets if necessary." Alex kept his helmet on. He wasn't taking any chances. "Maria, deploy the gas. Kevin, start mapping the ship's layout. Danny, watch our exit." Maria activated the gas canisters, and invisible clouds of the knockout formula began spreading through the ship's ventilation system. Within minutes, it would reach every compartment on the vessel. Captain Dr. Brooks called out, studying his scanner. I'm detecting life signs throughout the ship. Multiple species, but mostly concentrated on what appears to be the command deck. Alex nodded. Lead the way. They moved through the alien corridors like ghosts. The ship's design was strange, with curved walls and passages that seemed to follow. No logical pattern. Everything was built for beings much taller than humans, with controls and displays positioned well above their heads. The artificial gravity is about 20% higher than Earth normal, Dr. Brooks observed. These aliens evolved on a high-gravity world. They reached a Ritter section where 3 corridors met. Alex held up his hand, signaling for silence. He could hear voices coming from one of the passages, speaking in a language that sounded like clicking and whistling. 2 life signs, Dr. Brooks whispered, checking his scanner. Moving this way. Alex pressed himself against the wall, his weapon ready. The voices were getting closer, and he could see shadows moving in the dim light. 2 alien figures appeared around the corner, walking casually and talking in their strange language. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the corridor lighting. Their skin was a pale gray color, and they wore uniforms that looked like they were made of some kind of metallic fabric. The aliens stopped talking when they saw the humans. For a moment, nobody moved. Then one of the aliens reached for what looked like a communication device on its belt. Alex whispered. The knockout gas had been flowing through the ship for several minutes, but these aliens were still conscious. Either the formula wasn't working as expected, or these beings had a natural resistance to it. The alien with the communication device collapsed first, its 4 arms going limp as it hit the floor. The second alien managed to activate its device before the gas took effect, but Alex couldn't tell if it had managed to send a warning. Captain, Dr. Brooks said urgently, I'm detecting movement throughout the ship. The gas is working, but slowly. We need to reach the command deck before they can organize a response. Alex nodded. Move fast. Stay quiet. And remember, we need prisoners alive. They continued through the ship, stepping over unconscious aliens as they went. The knockout gas was definitely working, but not as quickly as they had hoped. Some of the aliens were still conscious, though they seemed confused and disoriented. There, Dr. Brooks pointed to a large door at the end of a corridor. That's the command deck. I'm reading 15 life signs inside. Alex could hear voices from behind the door, speaking rapidly in the alien language. They sounded worried, probably trying to figure out why their crew members were collapsing throughout the ship. Maria, can you override the door controls? Asked. The engineer studied the alien control panel beside the door. Give me 30 seconds, she said. Pulling out her tools, Alex watched the corridor behind them, making sure they weren't being followed. The ship was quiet now, except for the distant hum of machinery and the occasional sound of an alien body hitting the floor. Got it, Maria announced. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The command deck was a large circular room filled with control stations and display screens. 15 aliens were inside, all of them turning to stare at the humans who had just entered their ship. For a moment, nobody moved. Then one of the aliens, wearing what looked like a command uniform, began shouting orders. The others reached for their weapons, but the knockout gas was already affecting them. Their movements were slow and uncoordinated. Hands up, Alex shouted, though he doubted they understood English. Surrender now, the alien commander said something in its own language, probably telling its crew to fight. But one by one, they began collapsing as the gas took effect. Minutes. All 15 aliens were unconscious on the floor. Command deck secured, Alex reported into his radio. Beginning Phase 2. Dr. Brooks was already moving to the ship's control systems, his scanner in hand. Captain, this is incredible. Dr. Susan Miller sat across from the alien commander in the underground interrogation room. The creature was secured to a specially designed chair that could hold its 4 arms and tall frame. Its compound eyes reflected the bright lights above, and its breathing was slow and steady through what appeared to be a set of small holes near its mouth. The alien had been conscious for 6 hours now, ever since the effects of the knockout gas had worn off. For the first 3 hours, it had remained completely silent, staring at Susan with what she could only describe as curiosity mixed with contempt. My name is Dr. Susan Miller, she said for the 10th time. I am a representative of the human government. Can you understand me? The alien's translator device, which Dr. Kevin Brooks had managed to activate, crackled to life. I am Fleet Leader Zarketh of the Kethari Imperial Navy, came the mechanical voice. You will release me immediately, or face the consequences. Susan leaned back in her chair. This was the first time the alien had spoken since being captured. I'm afraid I can't do that, Fleet Leader. We need to talk. There is nothing to discuss with primitives, Zarketh replied. Your species is classified as level 2. It's on the development scale. Pre-space flight, you should not even possess the technology to detect our presence, much less capture one of our vessels. About that, Susan said, pressing a button on the table. Between them, a holographic display activated, showing the true extent of human space infrastructure. Hidden bases on the far side of the moon, cloaked defense platforms scattered throughout the solar system, and a network of sensor arrays that had been tracking the alien fleet since it arrived. Zarketh's compound eyes widened as the display continued. Mining operations in the asteroid belt, research stations around Jupiter, and massive shipyards hidden in the shadow of Saturn's rings. What looked like a primitive species from a distance was revealed to be a sophisticated spacefaring civilization. This is impossible, Zarketh said, its translator struggling with the rapid clicking sounds it was making. Our sensors detected no advanced technology, no fusion reactors, no energy weapons, no faster-than-light capability. That's because we didn't want you to detect them, Susan replied calmly. We've been hiding our true capabilities for over 30 years. Ever since we first discovered your empire's existence, the alien was silent for a long moment, processing this information. When it spoke again, its voice was different, less confident than before. You knew we were coming? We've been watching you conquer other worlds, Susan said. 17 star systems, billions of lives lost. We knew it was only a matter of time before you reached Earth. General Robert Kane entered the room at that moment, carrying a tablet and wearing his full-dress uniform. He sat down beside Susan and placed the tablet on the table so Zarketh could see the screen. Fleet Leader General Kane said formally, I want to show you something. The tablet displayed a recording from one of Earth's deep space monitoring stations. It showed the Cathari conquest of a world called Veldrin Prime, which had happened 3 years earlier. The images were horrifying. Massive alien warships bombarding cities from orbit, millions of civilians fleeing in panic, and eventually the complete surrender of the planet's government. We watched this happen, General Kane said quietly. It watched your empire destroy an entire civilization because they couldn't defend themselves. That's when we decided that humanity would never suffer the same fate. Zarketh stared at the recording, its translator silent. Suzanne could see what might have been surprise or possibly shame in the alien's posture. Veldrin Prime was a military necessity, Zarketh said finally. They refused to surrender. They forced us to use extreme measures. They were defending their homes, Suzanne replied, just like we're defending ours. General Kane activated another display, this one showing the captured alien command ship. It was now surrounded by human vessels, being studied by teams of engineers and scientists. Other screens showed the locations of the remaining 11 ships in the alien fleet, all of them now under constant surveillance. Your fleet is trapped, General Kane said matter-of-factly. Our ships are hidden throughout the solar system, ready to destroy any vessel that tries to leave. Your cloaking technology is good, but our quantum sensors can track you anyway. Cannot hold us indefinitely, Zarketh said, but its voice lacked conviction. We don't intend to, Susan replied. We're going to send you home, with a message. She activated another holographic display, this one showing detailed scans of the alien ships. Human engineers had been studying the captured vessel for days, learning everything they could about Cathari technology. Your faster-than-light drives use a quantum tunneling effect, Susan explained. Your energy shields operate on rotating frequency cycles. Our weapons are plasma-based, channeled through crystalline focusing arrays. Should I continue? Zarketh. Breathing became more rapid. How do you know this? Because we've been taking your ships apart, General Kane said bluntly. Piece by piece, system by system. In 3 days, we've learned more about Cathari technology than your empire probably knows about human capabilities. Dr. Rachel Torres entered the room, carrying a large case. She was one of Earth's leading experts on alien technology, and he had been working around the clock to understand the captured systems. "Fleet leader," she said, opening the case to reveal components from the alien ship. "I wanted to show you what we've discovered." She pulled out what looked like a crystalline matrix, glowing faintly with internal light. "This is your primary computer core. It contains star maps, technical specifications, communication protocols, and military deployment schedules. Everything." Zarkith made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret, but Susan was pretty sure it was an alien curse word. "We know." "About the main fleet," Dr. Torres continued, 437 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts and 48 assault carriers. They're currently positioned in the Kepler 442 system, approximately 18 light-years from Earth. "We know their planned route," General Kane added, "their estimated arrival time, their tactical doctrine, even the names of their commanding officers." Susan watched as Zarkith seemed to deflate in its restraints. The alien had gone from confident superiority to shocked disbelief in the span of a few hours. "There's something else," Dr. Torres said, pulling out another device from the case. "We've reverse-engineered your communication system. You can now send messages directly to your main fleet using your own encryption protocols." "What do you want?" Zarkith asked quietly. "We want your empire to leave us alone," Susan replied. "We want them to turn around and go home, and we want them to never come back." "The empire does not retreat," Zarkith said, but the words sounded hollow. "Then the empire will learn a hard lesson," General Kane said grimly. He activated one more display, this one showing human military assets that had been hidden throughout the solar system for decades. The images were staggering. Massive defense platforms disguised as asteroids, each one armed with weapons that could destroy a starship with a single shot. Hidden shipyards producing vessels that combine human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. Battle stations positioned at strategic points throughout the solar system, ready to turn Earth's neighborhood into a killing field for any invading force. "This is what happens when you threaten humanity," General Kane explained. "We don't just defend ourselves. We prepare, we adapt, we learn, and then we fight back." Susan leaned forward in her chair. "Your empire has conquered 17 worlds because those civilizations weren't ready for you. They didn't know you were coming, and they didn't have time to prepare. Earth is different. I've had 30 years to get ready," Dr. Torres added. 30 years to study your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Do you really think your main fleet can succeed where your scout fleet failed?" Zarkith was quiet for a long time, staring at the displays showing human military power. When it finally spoke, its voice was barely above a whisper. "What happens to me and my crew?" "You're going home," Susan said. "All of you. We're going to repair your ships, refuel them, and send you back to your empire. You're going to deliver a message from humanity." "What message?" General Kane stood up and walked to the largest display in the room. With a touch, it showed a map of the entire galaxy, with the Cathari Empire marked in red and Earth highlighted in blue. "Tell your leaders that they found something they weren't expecting," he said. "Tell them they found a species that fights back. Tell them that if they come to Earth looking for another easy conquest, they're going to find a war instead." Susan watched as Zarkith processed this information. The alien commander had come to Earth expecting to catalog a primitive species for conquest. Instead, it had discovered a civilization that had been preparing for this exact moment for decades. "If they choose to attack anyway?" Zarkith asked. "Then we'll show them why humans have survived every challenge our planet has thrown at us for the past 200,000 years, Svuzan replied. "We'll show them what happens when you corner a species that refuses to give up." High Commander Veltar stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the final transmission from Earth with growing horror. The message had been sent using their own communication frequencies, encrypted with their own military codes. But the voice speaking was unmistakably human. "This is Commander Jake Harrison of the Earth Defense Force," the voice said calmly. "Your scout fleet has been captured. All 12 ships are now under human control, along with their crews. For arms trembled as he listened. Round him, his officers stared at the holographic display in stunned silence. The image showed Fleet Leader Zarketh sitting in what appeared to be a human interrogation room, very much alive but clearly defeated. "We know about your empire," the human voice continued. "We know about the 17 worlds you've conquered. We know about your expansion plans, your military capabilities, and your invasion timeline. Most importantly, we know you're coming to Earth." The transmission paused, and Veltar could hear other voices in the background, speaking in the rapid, clipped tones that seemed to characterize human speech. When Commander Harrison spoke again, his voice was harder, more determined. "You made a mistake, High Commander. You assumed we were primitive because we wanted you to assume that. You sent scouts to a world that has been preparing for this war. For 30 years, the display changed, showing images that made Veltar's blood run cold. Human ships emerging from asteroid fields where none should exist. Massive weapons platforms that had been disguised as space debris, the defense networks that spanned the entire solar system. All hidden from alien sensors by technology that shouldn't have existed on a primitive world. "We don't want war," Harrison continued. "But we've been ready for it since before your scouts arrived. We're sending Fleet Leader Zarketh back to you with 12 ships and a simple message. Turn around and leave. Find another direction for your empire to expand, because Earth will not be conquered." The transmission showed more images of human military assets. Shipyards hidden behind the moons of gas giants, producing vessels that combined familiar human engineering with captured alien technology. Battle stations positioned at key points throughout the solar system, each one capable of destroying multiple enemy ships. "If you choose to attack anyway," Harrison said, "you'll discover what happens when you threaten a species that has survived ice ages. Asteroid impacts, global wars, and every other disaster our planet could throw at us. You'll learn why humans have never been successfully conquered by anyone, including ourselves." Veltar watched as the display showed the captured scout fleet being prepared for departure. Human technicians were working on the alien ships, apparently, repairing damage and installing new equipment. The sight of his own vessels under human control was almost too much to bear. "Your ships will reach you in approximately 40 days, Harrison concluded. "Use that time to consider our message carefully, because if you come to Earth looking for easy prey, you're going to find apex predators instead." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in complete silence. Veltar stared at the empty display, trying to process what he had just witnessed. In 2 centuries of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. "Sir, communications officer," Helkin said quietly, "what are your orders?" Veltar didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about the 17 worlds his empire had conquered, and how different this situation was from all the others. Every previous target had been exactly what it appeared to be, a primitive civilization with limited technology and no knowledge of the threat approaching them. Earth was something else entirely. Earth was a trap that had been decades in the making. "Analysis," Veltar said finally. "I want a full tactical assessment of what we just saw." Science Officer Kilmer activated his workstation, reviewing the recorded transmission. "The human military assets appear to be real, sir. The energy signatures match their technological capabilities. The positioning of their defense platforms is tactically sound." "How many ships did we see?" Veltar asked. "At least 300 vessels in the immediate display," Kilmer replied. "But the transmission suggested there are many more throughout their solar system. Their industrial capacity appears to be significantly higher than our initial estimates." Navigation Officer Peekdal spoke up from his station. "Sir, there's something else. The humans knew our exact position, our fleet composition, and our planned approach route. Their intelligence about our operations is complete." Veltar felt a chill run down his spine. The humans hadn't just prepared defenses. They had been studying the Cathari Empire for years, learning everything they could about their enemies. "Options," Veltar said grimly. "We could proceed with the original invasion plan," suggested Tactical Officer Murden. 400 ships should be sufficient to overcome their defenses, regardless of their preparations. "At what cost?" Peekdo asked. They've been preparing for 30 years. They'll have planned for our standard tactics. We could lose half the fleet. The alternative is retreat, Murden replied, which would be a sign of weakness. Other species might think they can resist the Empire if humans can make us back down. Veltar walked to the main display and stared out at the stars. Somewhere in that direction, a small blue planet was preparing for war against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Logic said the humans couldn't possibly win, but logic had. Also said they couldn't capture an entire scout fleet, Sir Helkin called out. We're receiving a priority transmission from Imperial Command. Veltar turned back to his command center. Put it through. The holographic display activated, showing the imposing figure of Supreme Admiral Kethmorin, the highest-ranking military officer in the Empire. His ancient features were scarred from countless battles, and his compound eyes held the cold intelligence that had conquered half the galaxy. High Commander, the Admiral said without preamble. We have received reports about the situation at the Sol System. Explain. Veltar straightened to attention. Supreme Admiral, the human species appears to have been concealing their true technological capabilities. They have captured Scout Fleet Zephyr 7 and are demanding that we abandon our expansion into their region of space. Unacceptable, the Admiral replied immediately. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. You will proceed with the invasion as planned. Admiral, with respect, these humans are not primitives. They have demonstrated military capabilities that rival our own. An attack on their homeworld could result in significant losses. Supreme Admiral Kethmorin's expression didn't change. The Empire has conquered 17 worlds, High Commander. We will conquer this one as well. You have your orders. The transmission ended, leaving Veltar alone with his decision. He looked around the command center at his officers, all of them waiting for him to give the order that would send 400 ships toward Earth.
Sure.
Tactical Officer Murden asked. Before Veltar could respond, another alert sounded from the communications station. High Commander Helkin said urgently, We're detecting new contacts, multiple ships approaching our position. The main display changed to show the tactical situation. 12 ships were approaching the Cathari fleet, moving at standard Imperial cruising speed. But something was wrong with the sensor readings. Those are our ships, Science Officer Kilmer said in confusion. Scout Fleet Zephyr 7. But the energy signatures are different. As the ships drew closer, Veltar could see the modifications the humans had made. New armor plating, additional weapon systems, and sensors that were clearly of human design. The Cathari vessels had been upgraded with hybrid technology. They're hailing us, Helkin reported. On screen, Veltar ordered, Fleet Leader Zarketh appeared on the display, but he looked different somehow. Older, more tired, and definitely humbled by his experience. High Commander Zarketh said formally,
Oh.
I have returned with the fleet. And a message from the humans, report Veltar commanded. Sir, the humans are not what we believed them to be. They have been preparing for our arrival for decades. Their military capabilities are extensive. Their technology is more advanced than our estimates suggested. Their strategic planning is superior to anything I have encountered. Zarketh paused, seeming to gather his thoughts before continuing. Captured our entire fleet without firing a single shot. They studied our technology, learned our weaknesses, and demonstrated capabilities that suggest an attack on their homeworld would be extremely costly. In my professional opinion, sir, we should consider alternative expansion routes. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. In the background, he could hear the normal sounds of a ship's bridge, the hum of computers, quiet conversations of his crew, the distant vibration of the engines. But everything felt different now. What is your recommendation, Fleet Leader? Veltar asked finally. Withdraw, sir. Find another target. The humans have made it clear they will fight, and they have demonstrated the ability to make that fight very expensive for us. Veltar looked at his tactical display, showing the positions of 400 Imperial warships, the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Then he thought about a small blue planet where 8 billion humans were waiting for them to arrive. All ships, Veltar said into his command communicator,